Okay, this video is farmer food consilience. Okay, so the question then becomes, what is the word consilience? It's a good word to know for complex thinking. Consilience is kind of like the word concordance or congruence, that things match, that things go together. Okay, so how does this relate to farming and food supply? Well, there's been a whole bunch of events that are very similar to the Russian Bolshevik War in 1917 in Russia, where there was a communist takeover of Russia. There was a starvation event in Ukraine. There was starvation famines in Russia itself. And what I'm saying right now is that many events currently happening in the United States are very similar to those. It's a pretty standard communist technique to starve to death one's opponents, okay? And if you read any history, this is all obvious, okay? So, as you know, last year there was numerous trains tipped over full of chemicals polluting waterways in areas that feed farms, okay, including especially Midwestern areas, the so-called Bible Belt, okay? In addition, we can routinely look up in the sky and see these trails of things that shouldn't be up in the sky, of chemicals polluting the sky. And that pollution in the sky falls down onto the ground, and therefore it pollutes the soils. And the billionaire perverts who run the world have said a long time ago they want to get rid of the United States because it's an obstacle to global communism, okay? To control, to the return of slavery. That's the modern word for slavery, is communism, whereby power is centralized into the hands of a very few, and they can control the multitudes and depopulate the multitudes. And I think in their own mind, the billionaires believe they're doing something good, because to them, all these like poor people are a bunch of peasant vermin who are polluting the earth, polluting the waterways, polluting the sky, and in their mind, wouldn't it be better to get rid of them and not have the world be so polluted? So they actually think they're doing good, but if you're one of the proles and the peasants, like I am, and you probably are if you're watching this video, then that doesn't sound so good, okay? They've actually put it into writing. They want to decrease the population to 500 million, which right now it's about 8.5 billion, something in that ballpark. So that means about 9 out of 10 people, they don't want us here. Okay, the next thing is the food is polluted. They subsidize soy, which is sprayed with glyphosate, the GMO soy. They subsidize corn, which is sprayed with atrazine, the powerful estrogenic chemical mitochondrial inhibitor. It's used to make high fructose corn syrup, quite often contaminated by mercury, which is another brain toxin. Okay, GP is a brain toxin. The water is polluted with aluminum, so-called clarifier aluminum is a neurotoxin. It's an anti-fertility chemical. Fluoride is the same. A brain toxin, lowers IQ, and it decreases fertility, as well as numerous ENDCs. So it used to be EDCs, endocrine disrupting chemicals. Now they call them ENDCs, endocrine and neurologic disrupting chemicals. So they're not only toxic to your endocrine system, your hormone system, your fertility system, they're also toxic to your brain. Look at this. All of these things make you stupid and infertile. You think that's a coincidence? If it was just one, maybe. But when everything is pointing in the same direction, that's consilience, concordance, congruence. Consilience increases the resilience of a conclusion. Okay? Take a look at the Ukrainian war. Do you think it's a coincidence that basically who got destroyed, massacred, genocided? A bunch of white Christian men? Do you think that's a coincidence? That it was a convenient site for money laundering? Okay, the farmers are being harassed out of business in the United States. Remember the recent big protests in Europe, including the Dutch farmers? And now there's a so-called crisis of chronic wasting disease amongst deer. Is that real or is that fake? A way to shut down hunting of deer? To block off another potential food supply? The LGBTQ situation is being used to declare parts of the Bible as hate speech. And if the Bible can be declared here and there as hate speech, maybe you make the whole Bible illegal. Maybe Christianity should be made illegal. Tyrants always want to make Christianity illegal because it says the common man is equal in the eyes of God to the ruler. No, no, no. The ruler doesn't want that. The ruler wants them to be above everything else, that they can make whatever rule they want arbitrarily, and that the individual is just a talking monkey, a talking primate with no soul, with no intrinsic rights at all whatsoever. And then at the same time that the food supply, the farming, is being depleted and destroyed, the rivers, the air, the soil. They open up the you-know-what down south and flood it with military-aged men, not with families. Do you think that's going to improve the situation? Do you think that's being done by somebody who likes you? I mean, I would say step number one, having a clue about how to try to survive the next year or two, is realize that the billionaire perverts at the top, they don't like you, the common man. Okay, they hate your guts. They want you gone. All right, I mean, that's the only logical conclusion I can see for this. Think about it for yourself and see what conclusion you come to. All right, so let's take a look at how this plays out. First of all, here is recently, you might have seen this in the news, they're really ramping up the laws in Oregon to shut down all the small farmers. So here's this lady, by the way, her name is Christina. The fact that she's a Christian, I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Okay, a little tiny plot of land. Look at this back here. It's not even a full acre. So they're hassling the crap out of her, telling her she no longer is allowed to use her well water to irrigate her crop. So normally she feeds her family and some of the locals that come to buy food from her. Why shouldn't we have small farms where they feed people? So they're saying, oh, well, we need to preserve the water shortage, okay? There's tons of water. There's more than enough water. I mean, what better purpose could you use water for than to grow food? Okay, this is ridiculous. I can also tell you, back many years ago when I was a student at Stanford, and I considered being a wildlife biologist before I decided to become a doctor, I noticed that the evolutionary biology program curriculum, it hated farmers. It didn't just not like them. It hated their guts, and it wanted to take their land away from them. That's another reason why I became disillusioned with the whole environmental movement when I was in college. I was like, these guys are a bunch of jerks. I knew a bunch of farmers, and I liked the farmers, okay? And I've respected farmers all my life. They're hardworking people who grow us food, okay? What more could you want? And America was much better off when there were a whole bunch of small family farms. So what I'm saying is they were hostile to the farmers. Not just neutral, hostile to them, okay? So she's being put out of business, this lady. And then here's another one. And my goodness, her name is Christine too. Again, I'm sure it's just a coincidence that the Christian farmers are having their businesses destroyed, okay? Their food taken away from them, their ability to provide for their neighbors and their other customers destroyed. Okay, they're changing the laws just to put them all out of business, okay? And now they're protesting. They're going to try to, appeal, and maybe they'll get some of their land restored. But just the fact that in a situation where times are so bad, does it make sense that there's an aggressive effort? They're recruiting more staff to help put farms out of business. And they say, we're putting the farms out of business to protect the people. How does that protect the people? Oh, well, we have to protect the groundwater. You know what? The groundwater should be used as much as possible for farms. I mean, that's exactly what you have water for, to grow food. That's how we stay alive on this planet. Okay, this is BS. And here's this one article here. It says the famine is engineered. Engineering a famine. Shutting down farms to protect the people. Bullshit. It's to starve the people. This was a common thing in communism. And they're not just doing it here in America. They're doing it in Europe too. They're doing it in all the Western Christian countries. They're destroying these places. They're opening up their borders. They're flooding these countries with military-aged men. These are not families coming in. They are deliberately being sent there to destroy these countries, okay? Anybody with a brain can see this. It's rather obvious. If you just read a little bit, you will see this is the case. Never in my life have I seen these things. Numerous trains tipped over, pouring chemicals in the rivers, destruction of the food system, destruction of the small farms. These farmers in Europe, these are the Dutch farmers, this particular group, were so pissed off by them changing rules about nitrogen emissions, making it impossible for them to farm in their traditional ways, that they staged this giant tractor. Could you imagine all these farmers who are working typically every day from sun up to sundown, taking time out of their job to go drive to protest in The Hague because they're getting screwed over? This is a big deal, okay? This is the world's food supply. And yes, I'm a low-fat vegan, but you know what? If there's no food around, what do you think our ancestors survived for in the winter? They survived with meat and dairy in the winter because that's more available in the winter. If you can't grow crops and you can't ship or drive or train track anything in, so you can see where this is all going. Okay, and then here's just an example of one of these train tip overs like an Ohio River. Now, you think it's just a coincidence that trains carrying numerous toxic chemicals to growing food are tipped over, and right at the spot where they go over a bridge that leaks into the waterways? And do you think these other bridge collapses are a coincidence? I wouldn't be so sure. There's got to be some motive to it. Almost always, if you first see, the stupid person says, oh, well, these things just happen. Okay, a smart person says, why did this happen? I'll bet somebody made it happen. Because that's the way it most often is. Yes, sometimes things just happen. There is an element of randomness in life and nature. That's all true. But when you see repeated patterns, it's wise to think them as being caused by, a billionaire pervert who's the only person who's got the money to make stuff like this happening and who could get away with it, a regular peasant, they fart in public, they can get in trouble. But a billionaire can, destroy a train and destroy a river and destroy the surrounding towns and not get bothered at all, okay? You think it's a coincidence that a lot of billionaires destroyed a bunch of property in Hawaii so they could build their own places to live and they can stay over there and free from all the chaos that's happening in this country for the next, couple of years? I think that's a coincidence. Okay, and then all the food plants burning down. I don't know if you heard about this, but a whole bunch of food plants were burned down. Big numbers of them. Okay, I don't know the exact number. I don't follow this stuff too closely, but I do peripherally pay attention to a little bit. It's pretty relevant to us. What I want to do is just read and study all day and figure out all these things about nutrition and health. That's what I want to do, but I can't because I still got to pay college tuitions for my kids and I got to work. But that's what I really should be doing to fulfill my destiny on this planet, how I see it. More food processing plants burned down, tons of them, okay? It wasn't just one, there were tons of them. And this is what I meant by consilience increases resilience. Look at all these, trails, okay? You think this is a coincidence? Why is this going on day after day? Deliberate pumping of these unnecessary chemicals into the sky to pollute the air, and some of them are neurotoxins, and to damage the soil. They're going to go from the soil to the air, and people are going to inhale them right through the olfactory nerve into their brains. Okay, here's this expert on, now of course this guy is going to be biased, okay? He's being quoted by the Texas Deer Association. So they don't like this chronic wasting disease thing going on. There's this whole big chronic wasting disease, possibly a prion disease being talked about. And then the other people like this scientist, he's saying, oh, it's BS. They're just trying to shut down, deer hunting, okay? And I don't know what the truth is. I haven't studied that in much detail. I'm not that interested in deer meat and venison. But what I am saying is I know when I see a pattern of things all converging towards the same thing, that until proven otherwise, I would say the guy's probably right. But I haven't studied it, okay? But the consilience is resilience. And then here's like a typical border thing, massive amount. It's not like one or two people getting in who shouldn't get in. The borders are wide open, okay? And this is deliberate and it's ongoing, it's intentional. What I have read is that the goal is to double the USA population, and these people will all be loyal to the Communist Party, and not all of them, but certainly a high percentage of them, and they're going to be allowed probably to cast a ballot, is the prediction of a lot of people who are studying this matter, and so that's why it doesn't even matter who runs. The party that's got the big numbers will win, and it could run the worst candidate in the world, as it so often does, and still win. Okay, so this is the way things are going, all right? So now getting back to this diagram, like I was saying, consilience increases the resilience of conclusions. All of these things are serving a same goal, the genocide of this population of Christians. And especially they want the white men first. And the reason is, imagine you're a communist. Think like a communist. You would say they want total control and be able to put everybody into slavery and depopulate them as much as possible. You would say, what's the obstacle? What's the only obstacle? That one ethnic group is the main obstacle. They think that everyone else is either too small in numbers or too incompetent or just doesn't have any ability to change events, okay? They think women are a joke, by the way. Their attitude about women is you can get women to do anything. Women will do anything for the sake of their kids. Just take a look at porn where they allow themselves to be gangbanged by a bunch of heroin addicts with tattoos from head to foot, okay? They'll do anything for their kids, okay? So they feel like they're easy to control. And physically, they don't have much physical strength. So despite the fact that many of them are quite intelligent, they think that they're easy to control. The only group they see as a problem is the one group I just talked about, the ones that wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And their attitude is, look, once that group is out of the way, everyone else will be very easy to control. So that's why they want to get rid of that group. That's why everything is targeted against them. That's why the so-called white privilege term is used around. That's why the term Karen for the women is batted around, because they believe once they can get rid of this group of people, and they're a very small group of people, they're only like 4% of the population on the whole planet Earth. Once they can be gotten rid of, then the mind of the communists is that it'll be easy to control everybody else. Once that's done, everybody else can be put into slave camps, can be, treated in whatever way you want. Keep some of them in one camp for organ harvesting, keep other ones in a camp as sex slaves, keep other ones in a camp as laborers. They believe that everyone else is a walk in the park to control. So anyways, I'm real sad to say this, but I'm just letting you know these are the things that are going on. If you see it differently, go ahead, put it in the comment section. If you think I'm wrong, go ahead. I wish I was wrong. I want to be wrong about this. I'm sad about it, because I know I'm screwed too. Look at Katyn. What did they do in Katyn when the Russians came through Katyn in Poland, okay? They just wiped out all the educated men, okay? So this is all sad, and I hope it doesn't happen, but it certainly looks like it's pointing in this direction.